building a table for some friends of ours, and I wanted to capture some of the steps that it takes to get that done and also capture some of my mistakes. So first I ran the wood through my planer and my table saw to make it as flat as I could and get over the rounded over edges. Then I'm using biscuit joints to put the top together. And for some reason, I really fought this for like an hour. I just could not get this thing to come together like I wanted. So I took it all back apart, ran it through my table saw and planer again, and then just glued two boards together. I let that dry overnight. On day two, I came in with my homemade doweling jig, and this is it. And I used dowels instead of biscuits, and that worked out so much better. So here I am installing the dowels and doing a dry fit, and then I'm going to add some glue and squeeze those together, and it just worked out much better. Once that was dry, I used a combination between a card scraper and a belt sander to work over the edges to make that top just as flat as I could, and to work on the seams. Once that was done, I used a palm sander to sand it up to like 220 grit, and then I used a two-part epoxy to stabilize the knots, and then I went back behind it with a heat gun to get the air bubbles out. I used my track saw to cut the top to the final width and the final length, and then we're going to move on to the base. The base is a 4x4 material. I milled that down to a 3x3 material, and these are all pretty much straight cuts, nothing to it. I am using my homemade slot mortiser. So all the joinery on this table are mortise and tenon joinery, double mortises because it's a 3x3 material. So there's no nuts or bolts on this. This is the cross members. This is a 2x4 going across the top and a 3x3 going across the midsection. And adding mortises to these end grains, these long boards, is much easier with the slot mortiser compared to doing it by hand. So I was very happy with that. Here I'm installing the mortises, putting in the mortises of where that cross member is going to go, and I'm just a couple minutes away from finding out that those mortises are in the wrong spot. So I did a dry fit, and it worked really good, looked great, and then I realized I had two left legs. So there's one left leg, and there's the other left leg, because there's got a dedicated dado for the power strip. So there's nothing I could do but to cuss just a little bit, and then I had to cut that portion of that one leg off, and then recut a new leg, mill it down to 3x3, and then I think I had to add like 9 mortises to that one board, so that was a pretty big mistake. Here I'm just making a little spot for the power strip. And then this is the final glue up. So I had to extend all my pipe clamps so they were about 8 feet long. And then I had to cut some angle iron to help hold down the top to the base. And then I went to finish the top. So on the top, I used wood conditioner because this is just pine wood. And I let it dry too long. I didn't realize that, but I let it dry a couple of hours. And when I put the stain on, I had those terrible blotches there. So I had nothing else I could do but to sand that back to the bare wood. And that is not a mistake I will make twice. I just didn't realize that. So the conditioner you have to put on, only let it dry 15 or 20 minutes, and then stain. I let it dry so long it basically wasn't doing any good at all. So once I got the top sanded all the way back down, I reapplied the wood conditioner, and then here I am staining it for the second time, and I'm just praying that it's going to look good, and it did. It's just a learning experience. This is my first top, and I'm sure if I did another table, I'm sure I'd be a lot more efficient because this is my first one. So, but I was happy with the way this turned out. Then after that was dry, I put on several coats of polyurethane. I brushed it on and used my paint sprayer. And again, I've got to work on my finishing skills. There's an art to this, and I have not mastered it yet. Then I put about 4 coats of paint on the base. And that worked out fine. It was just like a flat black, and I just felt like I needed a lot of coats of that on there. And there's the finished product. There's the finished, and there's the power strip, how it weaves in and out, and it's hidden. Now I'm loading in the truck, and I'm going to head to Zionsville to deliver. So this is the finished product in its home. I think it looked really good. They did a good job designing it, and we're all done.